The marble floors of the Grand Wellington Hotel gleamed under crystal chandeliers as Charlotte Morgan adjusted her burgundy sweater one last time. The scent of expensive perfume and fresh orchids filled the opulent lobby, making her canvas bag feel heavier on her shoulder. Just observe, Christopher had whispered that morning, his lips brushing her ear as he straightened his silk tie. I need honest eyes on this acquisition. You don't know I'm sending you. Charlotte's worn jeans stood out like a stain against the designer dresses and tailored suits surrounding her. The doorman had barely concealed their disgust, and now, James Porter at reception looked at her like she'd wandered in from the street. "I'd like to see your rooms, please," Charlotte said, forcing warmth into her voice. "I'm interested in staying here." James's fingers drummed against the marble counter. "Our standard rooms begin at $800 per night. Suites start at $2,500. That's fine. I'd still like to see what's available." Sharp heels clicked against marble as Victoria Harrington approached, her black suit pristine, her smile razor-thin. At 50, she moved with the predatory grace of someone who had clawed her way to the top. "Is there a problem here, James?" The young man's relief was palpable. "No problem, Ms. Harrington. This lady was asking about rooms." Victoria's cold blue eyes swept over Charlotte's appearance like a scanner detecting contraband. "I see." Her voice carried the weight of judgment. "Ma'am, the Grand Wellington caters to a very specific clientele. Perhaps the Comfort Inn down the street would better suit your budget." A tea crept up Charlotte's neck, but she held her ground. "I'd prefer to stay here." Victoria leaned closer, her breath smelling of mint and venom. "Let me be blunt. Your appearance suggests you'd be more comfortable elsewhere." The words hung in the perfumed air like smoke from a fire. Other guests had begun to stare, some with pity, others with barely concealed amusement. Charlotte's phone buzzed. Text from Christopher. "How's it going, beautiful?" She looked up at Victoria's triumphant smile and felt something cold settle. In her chest, the escalation. "You know what?" Charlotte's voice remained steady, despite the fire building in her chest. "I think I'll take that suite after all. It's a $2,500 one." Victoria's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some form of payment verification before we can proceed." The lobby had grown quieter. Conversations dying as guests turned to watch the spectacle. Charlotte reached into her worn canvas bag and pulled out a black American Express card. The metal caught the chandelier light as she placed it on the marble counter. James's eyes widened as he processed the card. His computer screen reflected. In his glasses as numbers appeared. "The card is valid, Ms. Harrington. No limit." Victoria's smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. "Of course. James will be happy to show you to the royal suite." "Actually," Charlotte said, her voice gaining strength, "I'd like you to show me personally, since you were so concerned about my comfort level." The tension stretched between them, like a violin string about to snap. Victoria's manicured fingers gripped her tablet tighter. "Certainly." The word came out like broken glass. As they walked toward the elevator, Charlotte caught her reflection in the gilded mirrors lining the walls. She looked small next to Victoria's imposing figure, but there was something new in her eyes. Something that hadn't been there when she'd walked in. The elevator doors slid shut with a soft whisper. "Between you and me," Victoria said, her mask slipping slightly, "money can't buy class. Your husband may have deep pockets, but it's obvious you weren't born to this world." Charlotte's finger hovered over the emergency stop button. "What did you just say?" "I said your husband. Card is in both names, Christopher and Charlotte Morgan." Victoria's smile turned predatory. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" The elevator lurched to a stop between floors, and Charlotte realized she'd pressed the button without thinking. The betrayal, "You know who I am." "What?" Charlotte's voice was barely a whisper in the confined space. "What?" Victoria's laugh was sharp and bitter. "Christopher Morgan's little project, small-town girl he rescued and married. Did you really think I wouldn't do my research when I heard whispers of a possible acquisition?" The elevator's emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across Victoria's face, making her look like something carved from ice. "Here's what's going to happen," Victoria continued, pulling out her phone. "You're going to leave quietly, and I'm going to make sure word gets out about tonight. How the great Christopher Morgan's wife was so desperate for attention She played dress-up and pretended to be poor. Charlotte's heart hammered against her ribs. You wouldn't I? Victoria's fingers danced across her screen. I've already drafted the press release. Morgan Hotel Empire CEO's wife caught in bizarre hotel charade. It'll be viral by morning. Why? Charlotte's voice cracked. What did I ever do to you? Victoria's composure finally shattered. You married him. The words exploded from her, lips like a gunshot. 20 years I worked beside Christopher. 20 years I built this empire with him. And then you walked into his life with your sweet smile and your small-town innocence, and suddenly I was nothing. The confession hung between them like poison gas. Charlotte stared at the woman she'd thought was just another cruel employee. You loved him. I loved the empire we built together, the partnership we had, the future we planned. Victoria's voice turned venomous. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? You with your fairy tale romance and your happily ever after. Charlotte's phone buzzed. Another text from Christopher. Taking longer than expected? Should I come in? Victoria saw the message and smiled. Perfect timing. Let's give your husband a show he'll never forget. She pressed the button to restart the elevator, and Charlotte realized she was about to lose everything. The sacrifice, the elevator doors opened to chaos. Hotel security flanked Victoria as she marched Charlotte through the lobby like a prisoner. Get out. Victoria's voice rang through the marble halls. You're trespassing. Security escort this woman from the premises immediately. Guests scattered. Like startled birds as Charlotte stumbled forward, security guards gripping her arms. The canvas bag slipped from her shoulder, its contents spilling across the pristine floor. Her phone skittered away, Christopher's worried text still lighting. Up the screen. Please, just let me explain, Charlotte gasped, but Victoria's performance was flawless. The Grand Wellington has standards. Victoria announced to the gathering crowd, cannot allow disruption of our guests' experience. Charlotte's cheeks burned as she was dragged toward the entrance. Through the tall windows, she saw Christopher's black sedan pulling up to the curb. Her heart lurched as she realized what he was about to witness. Wait, she called out desperately. Victoria, please. Don't do this to him. Victoria paused, something flickering across her face. For a moment, Charlotte thought she saw regret in those cold blue eyes. It's too late, Victoria whispered, so only Charlotte could hear. I've already lost everything that mattered to me. Why should you get to keep what's yours? The doors burst open as Christopher strode into the lobby, his presence commanding. Immediate attention. His dark eyes found Charlotte instantly, taking in her disheveled appearance and the security guards holding her arms. What the hell is going on here? His voice cut through the murmur of the crowd like a blade. Victoria stepped forward, her mask of professionalism sliding perfectly back into place. Mr. Morgan, your wife was causing a disturbance. We had no choice but to remove her from the premises. Christopher's eyes moved between Victoria and Charlotte, confusion and anger warring on his face. Charlotte, this was her moment. She could expose Victoria's lie, reveal the cruel game that had been played, but as she looked at her husband's face, she saw something that made her heart break. Trust. He still trusted her to handle this. I'm sorry, Charlotte said quietly, the lie tasting like ash in her mouth. I thought I could prove something. I was wrong. Christopher's expression shattered. The car ride home passed in suffocating silence. Christopher's knuckles were white against the steering wheel, while Charlotte stared out the window at the city lights blurring past. 20 years, he finally said as they pulled into their driveway. 20 years I've built my reputation on treating people with dignity, regardless of their background. And my own wife destroys that in one night. Charlotte's chest felt hollow. Chris, I need to tell you something. No. His voice was sharp. As he cut the engine, I don't want to hear excuses. I saw what happened. The whole city will see it by tomorrow. They sat in the darkness of their garage, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down like a physical force. She knew who I was, Charlotte whispered. From the beginning, Victoria knew, and she orchestrated everything. Christopher's head snapped toward her. What? The words tumbled out in a rush. Victoria's confession. The threats. 20 years of partnership that Charlotte had unknowingly destroyed simply by existing. When she finished, Christopher's face had gone pale. Why didn't you tell me? The lobby? Why didn't you defend yourself? Charlotte's laugh was bitter and broken, because I saw your face. You trusted me to handle it, and I couldn't bear to disappoint you. I thought protecting your business relationship with her was more important than protecting myself. Christopher was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. You sacrificed yourself for me. I sacrificed myself for us, for what we built together. Charlotte, he reached for her hand in the darkness. I fired her tonight. Before we even left the hotel, the moment I realized what really happened, Charlotte's breath caught. How did you know? Because I know you. His thumb traced across her knuckles. And because James Porter came forward, he couldn't live with what he'd witnessed. The garage fell silent except for the ticking of the cooling engine. I'm selling the hotel, Christopher said quietly. What? Why? Because any place that could treat you that way, could make you feel less than the extraordinary woman you are, isn't worth owning. He lifted her hand to his lips. Some things are more valuable than empire building. Charlotte felt tears she'd been holding back all night finally spill over. Chris, I'm sorry I didn't protect you. Sorry I let you walk into that alone. You didn't know. I should have known. Should have been there. Outside, rain began to fall against the garage windows, washing the city clean. Inside the car, two people who had almost lost everything held each other in the darkness and remembered what really mattered. Victoria Harrington's empire of cruelty had crumbled in a single night. But what Christopher and Charlotte built together would last forever. The end.